All right.
Wow.
So welcome everybody to the State of Electron talk.
It's so serious. Woo!
Give it up for quantum physics.
Okay. So hello, I'm Jessica Lord. I'm a developer on the Electron team at GitHub.
And my name is Max Ogden, and I'm an Electron user and third-party module author for Electron.
So we're going to talk about Electron, its origin, some of its features, and then the ecosystem that's been building up around it. So starting with where Electron began, where it came from, it started because GitHub had a dream to build a text editor purely based on web technology. And you might have heard of it. It's a thing now. It's Atom. But before it was a thing, we needed to build it on top of something. And the team at the time had tried the things that were existing, like Chrome Embedded Framework and Node.js, but nothing was quite the right fit for what they were trying to do. And so they knew they needed something else. And so we were able to get Cheng Zhao, who's amazing, and he's the lead developer now on the Electron project. Cheng and I are the two people on the Electron team, and we're hiring, so if you think Electron's cool, talk to me. But so he was a main contributor on Node WebKit, and he came on board to GitHub to build Electron, and so he did, and it's like all him. But so what really is Electron? Electron is a framework for building cross-platform desktop applications using web technology like HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And the way that it's able to do this is because it's based on Chromium and Node. And Chromium and Node are both using the same JavaScript engine V8. And so they're able to combine into a single runtime so that you have actually Node and something that draws web pages all together in the same place. And so there's lots of cool things about this. It means you're building apps with HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Everything that is cool in Chrome and cool in Node, you get when you build Electron apps. So you don't have to use Babel, really, right, if you just want fat arrows, because what's in Node 4 and Node 5, you can get in Electron. Electron's about to be on Chrome 47, so it's really easy for us to stay up to date with all of the latest things. So the cool, fun stuff that you can do in Chromium, you can do in Electron. You get all of the Node APIs, and then, of course, you can use all of the existing Node modules out there. There's automatic updates for Mac and Windows. You're designing only for one browser. It works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. It also, Electron has a build for ARM. So speaking of Internet of Things, if you want to build Electron apps on ARM devices, you can. It now is compatible with the Mac App Store. Native dialogues, Windows installers, there's lots of cool stuff. So how do you use and interact with Electron? Electron has two processes. There's the main process, which is the life cycle of Electron, and then you use that to spin up your web pages, which are the renderer process. And each of these, down below, you can see these are some of the modules that are available in those processes, but both of them have Node in the entire context. So no matter where you're at in a Electron app, you can use Node, and you can talk between the two processes with the IPC module. And you don't have to just create one web view. So you can spin up as many as you want, and you don't have to make them all visible either. So if you just want to spin up another process to be running things in the background, you can do that too.
Each one gets its own V8 too, which is cool.
And so when I talk about Node being available to you anywhere in an Electron app, when you write an index.html page and you write your HTML, inside of your script tag, you can just use Node as you would anywhere else. It's amazing. So you can touch the file system and take stuff and inject it right to the DOM. And we are currently moving towards a 1.0, maybe like in early 2016. The goal is just to have a standard and stable API, but everything that's going to the 1.0 API is out now in the latest version of Electron, so you can see if what you're using now is compatible, what's breaking, or what's going to break. So those are the basics about what Electron is, and Max is going to talk about the ecosystem.
Yeah, so I don't work on Electron itself, whereas Jessica does work on actual Electron. I've been an Electron user since basically the day it was open sourced. And my contribution to the project is that I wanted to bring the NPM good vibes to the way Electron's ecosystem got built out. And one thing that excites me the most about Electron is that finally, as like a Node person, like my way of writing cool things was writing like web servers and command line tools, and now I can use Node and not have to worry about the craziness that is front end from me because I'm not a front end person. I can finally write web applications that are open source and can be distributed on NPM. I use GitHub releases in NPM to distribute applications, which is really cool. You can kind of use the Node small module approach to things and actually build a UI and not have to be limited like in the way that you're limited with, say, Chrome applications. You really have, I mean, we put databases into Electron apps, like C++ compiled native modules. You have as much control over Electron as you do over Node because it is Node. So that's what really excites me about it. The first thing that we needed was a way to install Electron with NPM. And GitHub had some really cool tools for using Electron inside of Atom. But if you're using Electron outside of Atom, the most familiar way you'd want to do it is just npm install Electron. npm install Electron was taken, so we had Electron pre-built, which is the pre-built Electron binary. And so that just gives you a way to npm install Electron from npm, and you get the latest Electron. And that's just maintained by myself and my coworkers, or I work at a nonprofit. We just wrote it because we needed it, and now the community uses it a lot. It gets a lot of downloads. I'm going to talk about some of the community modules that you can contribute to if you're interested in contributing, or to give you ideas of other modules, because like I said, one thing that Electron has going for it is it's not a big monolithic thing. You can really extend it and write a lot of really cool modules to make it easier for other people to do things that maybe Electron never intended you to be able to do. So I mean, it's still pretty early. It's not even 1.0 yet for Electron. So I think there's a lot of really cool things out there that are still waiting to be written. So maybe you get an idea during this talk. These are some of the modules that, for example, this is what we had to write to write the installer. So when you install Electron, you're using all these. The pre-built module just goes to GitHub releases, gets the latest version of Electron. The download module, we split out of it because that has to actually do the HTTP request. We split the Nugget module out of that, which is basically wget written in pure JavaScript so that we could download the zip file. And then we had to extract the zip file, so we had to write an extract zip module in JavaScript to extract the zip because none of that stuff existed. So this is like, when you do modular development, you find that modules are missing and then you end up writing modules. And now all these are maintained, used in production modules that we wrote just to install Electron. So sometimes you end up solving fundamental problems, but that's the fun part of open source for me. So if you want to send me any pull requests to any of these things, I actually published a new version of extract zip earlier today. And then somebody came along, this was really awesome, this person, John Mule, and they said, hey, I'm going to write a module. It actually is a server that sits on Heroku. This was contributed to open source. He made a module that it's a server, it sits on Heroku and listens to GitHub's releases. Whenever GitHub puts out a new Electron release, it hits the Heroku server and then uses my NPM account to publish Electron. So every time Electron gets released, it's through this person's awesome Heroku server that they use to automate the releases. And
we added that webhook to the Electron repo. Like, if anybody's like, ooh, can I touch a GitHub open source project? Like, yes, you can. Please contribute. Like, on Atom and Electron, we have really awesome relationships with some of the maintainers.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's been cool, yeah, to see like, getting GitHub and the community people to work together on making Electron better. And then, so those are some of the utilities. And then early on, I was really excited because I was watching this issue on Node WebKit for a long time about making menu bar applications for like 2 years. And it was kind of like it'd be really cool if somebody made menu bar applications easy, and it never quite got there. And so I never ended up using Node WebKit for that. But then they added really nice support for menu bar out of the box with Electron. So I made a module that you don't have to write a whole Electron app. You can just throw an index HTML with your code in it, and then a few lines of menu bar code, and you can have a menu bar app. So there's a few examples. I don't know if they're kind of small, but a menu bar app on Mac, it's called the menu bar at the top. But on Windows, it's the task tray, and it actually works across platform. And it even works on certain Linux desktop environments. So it's cool because you can have these kind of little utility applications with the UI all implemented in HTML that just natively works across the different desktop environments. And that basically just makes, because Electron is kind of like using Node. It's very low level, and you have control over everything. But the menu bar module is kind of like, it's an application framework, sort of. It's only 100 lines, but it's kind of like using Express versus core HTTP. And there's, I think, a lot of potential for writing other things like menu bar, just to make different kinds of applications easier. There's some cool stuff coming out. For instance, this uses menu bar. It's called Emoji Bar. And if you've ever wanted to look up emoji, you can install Emoji Bar. And Muan is also awesome, the author. And so you can just search for emoji, and then it copies it to your clipboard.
You search for your feelings, and then it finds the right emoji.
Yeah, exactly. Really awesome. All open source if you want to see like how an open source Electron app looks like. This is one that I've been working on called Screencat, and it's a desktop sharing application. So you can share your desktop with another person, and they can see your desktop. You can talk to each other over WebRTC, and you can control the other person's mouse and keyboard remotely. And this person, Jay Simplicio, sent me a pull request one day and was like, hey, I found this open source project. You needed a little help on design, which was true. And she sent me some design pull requests. And then over the course of the next couple of weeks, took the project on and made it better and more usable and made it, it's a little bit small here, but you can, this is the progression of the design concepts evolving on GitHub. And so for all the open source that I've done over the years, the number one piece of criticism I get from like actual users is, this is too hard to use, where's the open source designers? And I think what's really cool about Electron is that you can actually make open source applications that are well designed and live on GitHub, and you can, I think maintainers can do a lot to make the design process more transparent and open. So I've been trying to make all my projects easier to contribute to, especially for design. They're just kind of fun. They're a lot more fun than working on like a Node server module that is just a bunch of people arguing about indentation and stuff, which I do that plenty. So another really cool module or like app built on Electron, just to give you an idea of what's possible for an open source app, is this is kind of like VLC, but written in all JavaScript. And it supports everything that HTML5 video tag supports, and it's a desktop video player. It also has some really cool features in it. So it has a torrent client built into it. So if you drop a torrent on it, it just starts playing the video from the torrent. And you can even seek in the torrent, and it starts playing, from that point in the video. It has Chromecast support built in, so you can, drop a torrent, cast it to your TV. It has playlist support built in, and it's all open source. And so there's things missing. So for instance, there's no volume slider. So if anybody wants to go,
it's still currently not using the Electron API to stop your computer from sleeping.
Yeah, it doesn't,
Which, there's an API for that.
So when you're watching a movie, you have to wiggle the mouse all the time. And so this is a great project to contribute if you want to get involved with the project, because there's a good foundation there, but we could make a really awesome video player. And there's actually this crazy project that can embed VLC's just video renderer inside of a web GL context. So there's talk of even making this support everything VLC supports, just having a UI that's HTML. And then be able to use node modules to do the networking stuff.
Oh wait, I want to mention too, since you have that up, like the nav at the top is totally HTML and CSS. So that way it actually looks the same on all the platforms, because it's just hiding the native navigation and then using its custom one so that you can have like a consistent app.
Yeah, like on Windows it would look like that too, but I think there's only Mac builds for this right now, but so if somebody wants to make a Windows skin.
It would look like that, so it would look like Mac on Windows. But.
Then there's a module called Electron Packager that when I did Screencat, I think I wanted to make a .app. And all you get with Electron is you can use the Electron binary to run your app, but you don't have a way to package it into a native app executable. And so I started the Electron Packager project, and I think this one's the most successful community project because all these people, it's a little bit small, sorry, on the list are the people who have got involved with the project and then become collaborators, and now they have commit access, and they are, I get so much email from this project because a lot of people are using it, and it's totally community governed now. So what's cool about that is that it's not, like the planning process is transparent, so anybody can get involved with it. You don't have to, be on the same team as, or physically located with the people on the project. So that's a technique called open source that I stole from Rod Veg from NodeSource. He started the Level Down project, and basically he said anybody that sends a pull request to the project can become a maintainer. like if it's a meaningful pull request, not like a typo fix. But you kind of use your discretion and you say, if somebody's sending contributions to the project, just add them as an owner and give them the power and document what it means to be an owner and let anybody into the project. And so I've been trying to run all these as open source projects, and I think that we could really, like the Node community is at the forefront of writing open source code. Like we grew up with NPM and GitHub, where not a lot of other communities have had that. You know, we got to learn from all the mistakes of a lot of other older open source communities, and now we have this awesome thing that we can actually ship really high quality desktop UI experiences in open source things, which I think might actually make open source UI finally happen. And so, you know, try to experiment with different ways to run your project and get not just coders to contribute, but get designers and user experience people to contribute. And just want to give a shout out to JS Standard Code Style, because we also use that in all these projects that I mentioned. Never argue about style again. And that's actually all I wanted to cover on my side. So I have some Electron stickers to throw out to the audience. I only have like 10. And okay, cool.
We have a Slack room,
Oh, right in the, sign the disclaimer before I throw it at you. They'll just go randomly over there.
It's not his first time.
Sorry. Cool.
There's an Atom Slack room, and we have Electron channels in that. We have an Electron on ARM room. If you go to the Atom website, atom.io, you scroll to the bottom, there is a link to get a Slack invite.
Other crazy things you can do with Electron is run it on a server as a WebRTC server, because it's the easiest way to use WebRTC from Node. And you can just run an Electron headless process on a Linux server and use it as a server. So that blew my mind the first time I figured that out. So I think it's a really cool ecosystem, and I hope you can use Electron as a server if you just run it as a headless browser window just to get WebRTC, because Node doesn't have WebRTC. It's crazy, but it works. So yeah, that's why it's really cool. So anyway, we have a few minutes for questions. First question.
Hi, I'm super curious about the compiling of like a single binary package release stuff. Like that's always been like the missing piece for like a lot of the system. You mentioned that there's only a Mac build for like one of the earlier applications. Like if you wanted to, for example, like compile a Windows version, you kind of like need Windows to do that.
Oh, good question. The question is about building applications for distribution. And the Electron packager, there's a couple bugs, but it supports building for anything from anything. So you can build Mac, Linux, Windows, ARM from any of those. Like you can target anything from anything else.
There's a couple libraries you need to add to like your Mac laptop if you're wanting to build Windows, but it's...
Yeah, on Windows, like to set the app icon on the exe, you need to use Wine, for instance, and on Linux you need to use Wine, but it's supported. So you might find some bugs if you're doing like really weird combinations, but on Mac, because I test on Mac personally, there's other people that test on Windows that are collaborators, but I know that on Mac it works pretty well to build for everything else. And then there's even a module called Electron Installer that creates installers like MSI installers. So you can package
Electron itself comes with the Windows installers.
Oh, yeah. Next question. Yeah, so the question is, what does an actual Electron app look like? So if you use Packager, which is Electron itself it's not opinionated about how you package the app. The Packager builds a .app, so it's literally a .app. You can pick the icon, and inside, if you right-click Show Package Contents, or it gives you an exe or a Linux binary that's compiled with whatever, like GTK or whatever. And so if you double-click the app, then it opens up like a normal Mac app. And if you look inside, you'll see your JavaScript inside the source code, like of the app package.
And so if you're building an Electron app and you can offer it, from your website to say download, and they can just download the app and it runs. Like, right, you can use the web to see, this is what we do on Atom, right? We see what platform you're on, and then we offer you the link to download just that exe or that .app.
In the white here, yeah. The Electron installer module builds the installer, and the Electron packager builds the exe or the .app. So you kind of use them in combo. There's two different modules you use to build, but they both have command line things that you kind of, it's relatively, it should only take a few minutes if everything goes well.
And it's something you can just add to your NPM script too, so that you have like a single, really easy command line interface for just like package.
Yeah,
all.
definitely check out the Awesome Electron repo. It's Sindre Sorhus. He has awesome. If you look up Awesome Electron, it has all the best Electron list, like the list of all the best modules. In the green here.
So I've done a little bit of Electron in the past, and I'm a huge, for instance, Angular fan. But I found that using existing UI frameworks inside of Electron, while it works, was really weird as a native programmer. Something like Angular is meant for the web. It's not meant for a UI, a native UI. Have you guys seen any movement in people coming up with JavaScript frameworks specifically for dealing with native UI problems? Like an MVVM framework, for instance, for JavaScript. Have you seen any movement there? Like I've done Electron apps with Angular, but again, it's really weird. Angular is not meant for native apps. It's meant for web apps. So there's a lot of extra things in it I'm never going to use.
Oh yeah. So the question was, are there UI frameworks that are designed for native desktop applications? There's Connor's one. Yeah. So I don't do front end, as I mentioned. So the good news is that Electron is very unopinionated about how you actually do your app. But actually, what the actual best pattern for doing it will be, I have no idea. But there is some cool stuff, like for instance, this thing, which was written by one of the people that was involved with Bootstrap, Connor Sears. And he basically made, this is like, it looks like Mac Finder, but it's all written in CSS. And it's like a CSS kit that you can use in your Electron app to make it look like a Mac app. So there's that. And I don't know if there's a Windows one yet, but that might be something you could contribute to the ecosystem. That'd be cool.
And this team at Nihilus are building Electron apps, and they've done, like a lot of this is new, right? Electron's been open source for a little over a year, and it was called Atom Shell up until earlier this year when we finally were like, we have to give it its own name. People are using it. But so a lot of this is really like emerging now, but the team at Nihilus, they have an open source desktop mail client that's actually really beautiful and nice, but they've done a lot of good work in the area of, you're right, like a website is not a desktop app, and so there are a lot of web defaults that don't make sense, that feel really weird on a desktop environment, like being able to highlight things or the way that buttons and links look are different on the web versus a desktop app. So sort of coming to a standard of like, actually, what are all the CSS things you need to turn off or change to make an app written in HTML and CSS actually feel like a desktop app? And so they have some talks online where they've talked specifically about some of that stuff. So It's definitely emerging.
We're out of time, actually, for questions, but thanks for coming, everybody.